And he said 3, 2, 1, and we're here. We're back. And we have a full studio. Is everybody ready? Are we in on this right now? Can everybody? Hey, welcome back. Hey, you can see it's a full house, and we got some really cool people. Probably, the best person in the whole room has a glass connected to his name. So, Paul Hill. But let me just tell you who's with us today. Doug and Karen are back. Doug is looking fancy and phenomenal as ever. Karen made it back, made it through school, and has been nursing Doug back to good. And then we have a special guest, Thayer Crouse, all the way from the great state of Utah. Never been, got a buddy that lives out there. He's a fly fisherman. He's in the Special Forces group. I love that guy. I call him Boogie. And then everybody's favorite, Paul from the Dirty Oar. So welcome back, Paul. Thank you for what you do. Tell us what we're kicking tonight off with.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for having us back again. Tonight we have one of our newer beers. Is called Petulant Child. It is a peanut butter and jelly blonde ale, 5.9% alcohol, and just take a whiff of it, and it smells just like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. A little mix of raspberry and strawberry in it.
That's all right.
That does taste like peanut butter and jelly.
Petulant child? Is that, how do you say, petulant child?
Petulant child.
It's like a pain in the ass child.
That's basically what it means, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should see the picture Lindsay drew on the placard for the the big menu on the next to the bar.
Right.
It's a little kid making an angry face like they're trying to get their way.
You know my saying about kids. They're just like puppies. They're only cute for a little while, and then they suck.
So tell us, tell us about the ABV and all that.
Yeah, it's 5.9%, 23 ABUs. Just delicious. Like I said, it has a little strawberry and raspberry in it to represent the jelly. But it's a blonde ale, so nice, light, easy drinker, but really flavorful. So.
And that's going to be for like a lot of people like the blonde ales and the lighter drinks when they come in, especially the Budweiser, Coors, Miller, Mick Ultra kind of drinkers, right? They always want something that's a little lighter, and this would be actually a really good one to veer out of their course and try something new, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, the entry level that we have for those, just to appease those that you just spoke of, we have the Hey Buddy, which is our best seller by far, to be honest with you. I mean, it's just a nice, light, easy drinker. But this is a nice stepping stone into something a little more adventurous, if you will.
Paul, will you tell all our friends how to find you if they make their way to Cocoa?
Yeah, we're at 329 King Street in Cocoa Village, just one block east of US 1 on the south side. We actually share a parking lot with Norman's, open Wednesday through Sunday.
Right, so if you were going to make your way to Cocoa Village for any of the fun events that we do, or you're just, on vacation and find your way into Cocoa Village, please stop by the Dirty Oar. They're such huge supporters of ours. We couldn't do a lot of what we do without their support, and we're so thankful to have them here every single week. They continue to support us and make a big difference. So, Paul, we thank you so much for everything that you do for us, and Chris and the rest of the family over there at Dirty Oar.
Yeah, we thank you guys too. Appreciate everything y'all do.
Cheers.
Right. Cheers.
Thank
guys.
you, Paul.
Thanks, Paul.
you're welcome.
We'll see you, buddy.
Cheers.
Have a great show, guys.
Thanks.
Cheers, babe. So we're going to dive right into it tonight. Oh, that freaked me out. It's delayed here, so I thought Chris was talking. Sorry. So we're gonna dive right into it tonight. Hold on a second, man. I'm sorry. Can you turn mine down a little bit? It's like
Me too. He's really loud in my ears.
I like when he's loud in my ears. He has such a beautiful voice. It actually rocks me to sleep at night. I listen to Doug's.
I send him
Paul.
video recorded messages of lullabies.
Lullabies.
So we're going to dive right into tonight, unprocessed trauma, and what that means and how that affects first responders. We're going to talk about signs and symptoms. Like Chris said, I got my buddy Thayer from Utah here. He's the master and the specialist in the treatment side.
And if you can see his face, he's not impressed by that comment, by the way.
But we are so happy you're here.
Awesome.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
All right.
You have to lean into the mic.
We'll
Happy
get
to be
it
here.
on this.
Thank you.
That's a little better. So anyway, man, I'm a little shocked because I can talk. I mean, I don't have to raise my hand. I can just go with it.
Whatever you want to say today. We've missed you so much.
Is it my day?
Yes.
I think you guys just don't know what to do because I'm back.
We've missed you too, Karen.
Trust me.
We really
Yeah,
have.
yeah.
We really have.
They missed you as much as I miss you singing to me everywhere we go. Thayer drove with us yesterday, and he got a little taste of what it's like to drive in the car with Karen.
I had
And
4.5 hours of it in Jackson Hole, so
oh yeah, that's right.
I'm pretty
Well,
used to it.
He came to Florida with hair, and actually, so that I guess that 4-hour day just really, no, he lost it all.
So I left the other day. I left here to fly to. Can y'all still hear me? Because I just
Yeah, you
lost
could.
sound. I left here to go meet Thayer in Utah. Sent him a picture of the thermometer in my car. It said 89 degrees. I get on the plane, or I get off the plane in Utah. It's 0 degrees. He sends it to me. We work there for a couple of days. Come back here today, and it's 80-something degrees again. And he's going to get a taste of what it's like to live in Florida.
Oh, yeah. The sweating starts today.
Yeah.
That's what that
Yeah.
looks like, because
Yeah.
I don't know if you know it, but if you were outside in the sunlight today, it was beautiful, but it was extremely hot. So if you're not in Florida with us and you're listening along, you got to stop by, because we're like at the almost the northernmost part of the tropical climate here, and it's always a great place to be. Plus, you can always stop by and see us, and we'll always give you a good time too. So.
And we're lucky to have Chris here, because if you guys were watching the news, I actually saw it today on the news on my phone. Chris had to work a horrible train crash today, vehicle versus person, as we would say. Train. They call it vehicle, right?
Well, yeah, it's
So anyway, that's kind of perfect timing for what we're going to talk about today. So let's dive right into it. So unprocessed trauma. What that is, what that does to us. And it's kind of ironic that we're talking about this subject, because I just left Palm Bay PD and down here in Central Florida, and we had this discussion talking about what trauma does to your body and a long-term effect through the career as a first responder, and some of the things it can do to you during your career, and some of the things it does to you after your career. So do you want to dive in, and do you have a definition for unprocessed trauma, or are you looking at me like, no, I don't want to say it, you do it?
No, I'm happy to talk about it. I don't know if I have a special definition for it, but I go back to kind of my own experience, and some of the things I've gone through with unprocessed trauma, which is, some of the symptoms are weight gain, the memory loss, irritability, isolation, and obviously we see that with pretty much all of the first responders that come in and see us. And so, one of the biggest things that we do, at Chateau is when first responders come in, we slow everything down for that first 5 to 7 days. It's so hard for a first responder to actually slow down and kind of, get into some kind of groove and kind of get some control in their lives around that trauma. And so that's one of the biggest focuses that we do. I think that's huge, because without, my experience with unprocessed trauma for myself was everything went 100 miles an hour, no matter what. And so I would tornado through everybody's lives, whether it was professional, personal, whatever that looked like. That's kind of a big thing. And I know Doug, with some of the traveling that we've done, and we've processed a lot of this stuff, kind of everybody taking the self-care and slowing down kind of helps manage the trauma, I should say, in the short term.
Well, I think probably what happens when we're talking about the unprocessed trauma, it's kind of crazy, Chris, what you experienced today, what your police department experienced today, because that's traumatic, going and working a scene like that, and it's not picking on you, but pointing out, look what's going on right now.
Well,
Chris left a very difficult day's work, and he's here on our podcast, and life just goes on like normal.
Well,
So
it's it's his show too. That's how dedicated that.
Right.
That
I
I didn't
buy
mean to
into
cut
it.
you
Yeah, we
off.
all buy
But
into
welcome
this.
back. I get to cut you off, babe. So shows how dedicated Chris is, obviously, but it also how first responders are. Like I wish we could show you the pictures. We can't, but Chris was just showing me some of the stuff today, and to go from a horrific scene, if you can imagine what it's like when a person and am I allowed to talk about it, Chris?
No.
No. So obviously, something horrific happens in an accident, for lack of better terms, and then to leave that scene and then come right here and roll change to start talking about it to save somebody else's life. I mean, there's not even any time to go through it.
Well, and I can actually speak to that because I've actually thought a lot over the last couple of weeks. So on my right here, I was talking to one of my best friends, and I said, "Bro, I'm deathed out." Like I that's a pretty strong thought there. I'm deathed out. I'm tired of dealing with seeing so. And you know what? It's the bodies don't bother me. You know what bothers me? It's the death notifications. Parents aren't supposed to bury their children. And to go and stand in front of a grown man and a grown woman and say, "Sir, ma'am, your child, your baby is not coming home," whether that child is very little or an adult in their mid-30s, 40s, 50s, it doesn't matter the age. Parents aren't supposed to bury their children. And over the last couple of weeks, I've been reflecting on, we get so. Like, I didn't have to do this today on my own. Like, I had a whole team there of detectives and officers, and we all go through that together. Do we have time to really reflect? Like we've talked about so many times, the fire departments, they do that so well because they can go back and debrief. My day didn't stop after we went there. So many other things come into play, and we have to deal with that. But one of the big thoughts that I have was, you're not born alone. Even a mother in a barn, that baby is born to there's someone there with them, so why do this life? Why do these things alone? Who's your partner and who are your partners? And then just what Thayer said, we really thrive in fire and chaos, but when we have to slow down and reflect on that and what does that look like, it could be, if you don't have an outlet, if you don't know how to get in that groove, like you said, then then things start going to shambles. I remember when I left the logistical company that I worked for, and I finally looked in the mirror. I was overweight. I was filthy. I didn't even know who I was. And then I had to step back from that. And I've talked about it several other times. My release was writing, like just describing myself, and then I could start piecing myself back together. But having someone to do that with. I've been married for almost 15 years, and God bless her that she's continued to stick with me through all of these trying times and life changes, but I don't have to do it alone either. I know that my spouse supports me, but what happens if that changed? If there was a dramatic change in that, how would we deal with that? And so I think there's a lot to offer from this conversation and process, and just doing it right here. I told Doug I'm excited to see him. I've watched him go through a transition, a gnarly surgery, and he's getting physically and even mentally better. He's refreshed. You can hear it in his voice and see it. So, I mean, it's great to be here because it's an outlet. It is an outlet to be able to just rehash. And I'm not going to talk about everything that we see out there and all that, but, I mean, if you can imagine, trains are really big, fast, heavy machinery, and we are just so fragile. I mean, the human body is amazing in what it goes through, but you got to keep that sharp mind like we talk about. And I'll let someone else jump in because I know I've just been rambling. But
so I want to, just so for the people listening, as we get in this conversation, I want to talk about a couple other symptoms. So one of the first thing on the list of symptoms is tremendous. They use the word tremendous fatigue and exhaustion, edginess, insomnia, chronic muscle patterns, sexual dysfunction, changes in sleep and eating patterns, vague complaints of aches and pains throughout the body, extreme alertness, always on lookout and warning of potential danger. That's some of the physical symptoms that you can get from like an unprocessed trauma. And so obviously extreme alertness for, hyper vigilant, in a first responder, where you're always kind of looking over your shoulders. I mean, most of us are like that anyway, just from being in combat. Obviously, changes in your sleep pattern. I mean, I really don't know a first responder that sleeps a normal sleep pattern. I just don't. I mean, I don't, as you get older, you don't sleep anyway. So.
I think you just described everybody.
Yeah, right. I just
Right.
described everybody.
Yeah, right. Well, everybody that we work with, for sure.
Right. And well, and that's great, because think about it. Everybody we work with, from nurses to firefighters, it's the same conversation all the way over to police departments. But it's the same symptoms that everybody's going through, and they're like, oh yeah, that's what I do. That's what I do. And when you describe everybody, yeah, everybody's needs to pay more attention. That was one of the conversations that I had today at the police department. Was it doesn't matter who you are, what kind of training you have. I always stress that, because there's always the big heavy hitters in the crowd. Like today when I was talking to this police department, on one side of the room there was all these big badass dudes. They were all the big SWAT guys and the fighters and the athletic. And then on the other side it seemed to be more of the ladies and a different, and it was kind of odd. I see the looks in their face, and I tried to stress to them over and over. Hey, listen, it doesn't really matter who you are. I mean, this affects us as equally. It doesn't matter what you do, how you train, how physically strong you are. This could attack at any time. And the great thing, too, within this conversation is there was some old school players in there, guys that have been cops a long time, guys that I grew up with in the business, that I went to SWAT school with many, many years ago, and they were all on point and agreed, for the young guys in the room. So it was really nice to have some guys on my side that understood what I was talking about. There's a word here, tachycardia.
Tachycardia.
What is that?
Yeah.
I don't know what that is.
So I have.
Why are you laughing at me, school teacher? Is that how you treat your...
Because we all said tachycardia.
This is my show. Don't insult me on my show. Or you'll get banned. Where's the security? So what does it mean?
Well, actually, I
You don't know either, bitch.
No,
You're
I
laughing at
haven't.
me. You don't even know what it means.
You're gonna call me bitch on air? Yeah, no, I have paroxysmal atrial tachycardia, and it's I don't drink caffeine. I don't have any uppers anymore because my heart can't handle that. It runs 200 beats per minute, and it's a mess. So, and it's some kind of irregularity with one of your valves. Somebody else that has a better nursing background than I do can explain it, but I can't drink caffeine. It's been almost 10 years since I've had caffeine, and it's interesting because it wasn't until I was I guess it was about 10 years ago, and I was actually in treatment, and we talked about somatic experiences and physical symptoms from my trauma, and that was one of them. And so when I was 30, I cut caffeine completely out of my life. Now for 9 years, unbelievably.
Wow.
And I haven't slept since. So just walk around like a
zombie.
Like a zombie. So, but yeah, the symptoms with the trauma that have kind of come up in me over the years. That's the first place I go, is I kind of look at what's unprocessed.
Well, I think a lot of people think about trauma. Not necessarily talking about unprocessed trauma, but trauma just as that word, and they think that it will cause only mental health issues. Yeah. But I think it's important to realize that just as serious are the physical health issues that can come along with it, and many of those things we've talked about right now. But I think that that's important, because when just one traumatic event leaves a significant imprint on the brain, it changes things, it rewires things, and then you have a traumatic event after traumatic event after traumatic event, and it's getting filed differently. Like your brain is almost misfiring. It's because it's miswired now, and so there is the emotional impact, but that's kind of what we focus on the most, is that emotional impact, because we see those emotional changes. But also over time, if the trauma is unprocessed and we're not really fixing the problem, and we're not focusing on that, getting help, then that's when all of the physical issues pop up. The overweight, diabetes, tachycardia, all these different things, you become more susceptible to that as well. And research has actually shown that, and proven that with more and more trauma, not only does your mental health become impacted, but your physical health as well can be significantly impacted by it. So we need to look for those things as well.
Yeah, I think we. So I was at the police academy a week or two ago, and I was speaking to one of the what do they call them, the cadets, and trying to give them some background information about the agency that I work for. And so I said, why do you want to be a cop? And of course, there's always that, hey, I just want to help people. I feel called and compelled to help people. But really the question is, where were you at before this, and what did you experience that you want to change? A lot of times now what I found is that there was some kind of trauma in first responders' lives that led them to, and I'm speaking more along the law enforcement side, but they experienced something and they want to change the outcome or how they dealt with it. And that's why they're driven to be law enforcement. And maybe sometimes I think that that's never been addressed. So they're becoming law enforcement officers, and now they're dealing with new trauma. And so trauma on top of trauma, and we've never learned how to deal with it before we even got into this business. And now we're already behind the 8 ball. I mean, maybe that's the solution. Maybe we start with, before you get the badge and the gun, we start with treatment. And, okay, let's talk about, and that's, listen, this is not that pre-hire psych evaluation that you have to go through in physical. Listen, we already know, you want to be a cop and make, $30, $40, $50,000 a year to do shenanigans. You could really go make more money somewhere else. So you have to have, you got to be a little off to just jump into this line. And I think it's a way for people to maybe try and process what they dealt with in their earlier stages of life. And listen, it's not only the cops, and it's not only the firefighters, the first responders, the dispatchers, the nurses, the doctors. There are so many broken people, so many children right now that are broken, that need help dealing with this. So whatever you take away from the conversation, turn around and put that in your social circles, in your family circles, and let's start getting help for everybody. I'm not trying to save the world, help the world, or whatever, but this conversation, I believe, and it's strictly me, I believe that, being a first responder, you step up, you say, I'm willing to do, but take this information and help change your family too.
So I have a question for you.
Me?
Yes,
I'm
you, babe.
Doug.
You, babe.
I'm your husband.
Your babe.
Okay, babe.
I got you, babe.
And you, Thayer.
Okay.
And then you might be able to answer as well. So what do you think has been your biggest physical symptom with everything that you went through, with all the trauma and when it was unprocessed? What do you think your biggest physical symptom was? Be it memory. Well, we know you don't gain weight, so
Well, I've had this pain in my ass for about the past 5 years. I really haven't determined. It was kind of like the time I met you. So I don't know if it was a work-related injury or not. But, that's one thing I've noticed over the past 5 years. And actually, I don't think I could give a fair judgment on that. So when I read the symptoms, obviously the fatigue and the body ache, those kind of registered to me, and I you could kind of pick up that where you're just kind of achy and run down and tired. And I really believe, and this goes way back. I remember my brother. Many years ago, he was going through some rough times, and he was under a lot of stress, and he was constantly sick. And I it's just shocking that I remember this, but I remember a conversation with him, and I remember observing people once they were under a lot of stress, how it's amazing how you just run your body down and you're more susceptible to that type of stuff. And I'm looking at some of the comments. Debbie said for, fatigue for sure, no sleeping, anxiety, and tired. Holly said, so obviously we're all on the same page, but I remember it. For me, it would be hard to understand, to give it, because I've been so physically injured for so long. So I never know if it's just from one of my injuries or if it's from, from work related.
What about memory?
My memory, well, from having a traumatic brain injury and then stress and all kinds of things like that, yeah, my memory, as you guys know, is really, really horrible. I can remember, lines from movies from 20 years ago, but I can't remember anything last week. I really don't remember much anymore. It's actually, you guys are used to it, but it's kind of scary at times, and it kind of upsets me. Like, I'm 50 years old. What am I going to be like when I'm 70 if I make it that long?
Well, I bring that up because I know, as your wife, that is something that he has struggled with, and it has gotten a little bit worse over the last several years, and it is. You worry about it. Even though we joke about it, and you worry about it, but that is one of the biggest impacts that you see over and over again in articles and research, that memory is hugely impacted by trauma. And so when we're not taking care of it, we see that people start to have these memory lapses.
I like the comments tonight. Yeah, they're right on target. Yeah, as Chris is saying, and as most of y'all know, Chris Fields, being a firefighter, the worst was chronic fatigue. And, those guys, like, as a firefighter, you do a 24-hour shift. We give them a lot of grief on the cop side. They're in their beds and they're on their couch watching TV. But I could, me and Chris, as being detectives and drug agents and stuff and SWAT, we got called out. But it wasn't every night. So if you're a firefighter, let alone you're being traumatized all day, as a firefighter, do you get a whole night's sleep? I don't know, Chris, answer that question. If you're still, do you?
I can tell you, if they worked in Zone 1 or Zone 2 in the city of Cocoa, they never got any sleep. I mean, I remember responding to calls, and, we would see them. They would go, we'd cut them loose as quick as we could. It'd be 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. They'd run back and basically get their bunker gear off, get reset, change their shirt, and then out comes the next tone and they're right back off. And I was like, how do you guys deal with this? They're like, it's 24 hours. So, we just do it. But
my brother calls it selected memory. He said, admit it. Well, yeah, we all have that, but this is a little bit different. So bringing that up, I want to jump into, because this topic is fresh in our head. Can you see the importance? So obviously when you're dealing with trauma all the time, and then now and one of the main things is obviously fatigue, and obviously memory issues and body aches. Can you see, correlate, I'm using big words,
Ooh,
that with, I don't even know where that word came from, man.
He doesn't even know what it means.
I don't really know what it means, but I think it means match. But let's just go with it. Can I have my moment?
Yes.
It is my show, okay? So to correlate, please don't take me off topic. I'm on a roll tonight. I'm feeling like this is a good one. So you can see the difference of making, when you see on the news, like a cop makes a bad mistake. Like I remember recently there was a cop that shot somebody through a back window. Do you remember that one, Chris?
Yeah.
And so to make a bad mistake, and unfortunately, the departments don't see that a mile away. And I say departments, we're talking administrative level. It's staff the road, get out. If the guys are at the PD, hey, what are you guys doing here? Let's get out there and get on the road and get busy. And, things of that level of just move, go, 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 go. And then all of a sudden they get into a vicarious situation and they make a bad mistake. And that's just from just the work trauma, let alone the stuff that's accumulated over the years. So, and then another example. So Chris just leaves a horrible scene. Those were always worse. Traffic.
Yes.
Like I was telling the guys today in the class I was with, I never liked, I could have never been a firefighter because my worst thing at work was I didn't like traffic crashes. They freaked me out. I just never liked them. I never liked to see people hurt on the side of the road just by a random accident like that. I was kind of okay with the shootings and the fights and the, the gang stuff, but that's a little different. And it always traumatized me. So here's a guy who goes from something radically traumatic like that straight to something else. And then how do you keep your head focused on the little kids at home, your daughter's at home, your wife, at work, this, that, and the other, and then drive down the highway to come do a show. So you can see the overwhelming, I call it the wheelbarrow effect in my class.
I was thinking about that,
right? Overload. And that's what we talked about today at Palm Bay Police Department. And, filling that wheelbarrow and overloading it with so much stuff. And sooner or later, you're just going to break and you're going to collapse. And straight to lunch, Doug said. He said you went straight to lunch.
Yeah, we did. We actually had ribs at right over there.
So anyway, this is going, this is, I would probably say this is probably one of the biggest factors in the mental health issues in first responders. I mean, obviously the traumas impact us, but I think it's this whole thing we're talking about, unprocessed, and the fatigue. And I made a big point about it today in the class, telling these young guys how important it is. I'm trying to read Adam's comments. Yeah, he's talking about the firefighters, man. They're just busy. They run call to call all night. They don't get to sleep. And then so if they're not putting a fire out, right, which to me is insane. Like, they call us insane. I always make everybody laugh. I'm like, listen, if I was a firefighter and I pulled up and your house is on fire, I'd just be like, hey, dude, you're just gonna have to build a new one, man. That shit's on fire. And we just call it a day. I was watching the news this morning, and this fire department, I want to say they were by Geneva or somewhere. They went to a house that was on fire, and their closest fire hydrant was a mile away. So they built a pool, filled one truck up, poured it in a pool, and drained it. Like, that's a whole lot of work to put somebody's house out on fire, right? So on top of doing that, they go from the calls, like the sick people and the injuries and the crashes, right? So if they don't get a break and they don't have time to process all that, I understand as a cop, with the guns and weapons and that, and making that decision. But how about a medic? How about a fire medic, a firefighter? Most firefighters are paramedics. Right. They go to a scene and they come into your house and you're freaking out, and the kids are freaking out because mommy or daddy's on the floor and they're not breathing and their heart ain't working. And this firefighter's got to make damn near surgical decisions. Right, like then. I say surgical, like a surgeon or
listen,
or like a doctor.
When they drill that thing right into your bone just to get an IV into you, that's, I mean, to me, that's surgery. You just put a foreign object to get, an IV started in the middle of someone's leg and their bone. That is extreme. And, around here locally, we have the municipalities with the fire departments, and then the ambulance drivers, the medics, they show up, and they're fire medics also, but they're just on a rig, and they're not only in our municipality, but they're bouncing around. Their plate is extremely full. I don't know if they debrief. I don't know if they have time in this area. I mean, we deal with a lot of stuff. Maybe some other ones, I mean, I don't know how they do it, because they are not getting, it's not like, oh, hey, I just got out of the shower, I smell really good, and my life is great, so take me to the hospital. They're not getting any of that. No.
I wish Kevin was here tonight on the show.
Yeah.
It would have been nice to have Kevin on so he can. Well, Chris is on the show via the typing in the text, so it's kind of nice to have that. So, that's something that needs to be implemented into first responders that they take through their career from the get-go, right? Chris, right from training, from the beginning, hey, these are some of the things you're going to deal with. This is what you need to look for, and this is how we got to. And I'll tell you, so when I first started as a cop in Brevard County, Palm Bay Police Department, they were like, to me, they were like the pinnacle of how a police department should be.
Right.
And they were, they were more advanced. They seemed to everybody. They had programs. All the guys that I've ever met at this police department have always just been sharp, you know, from the prior chiefs. Obviously, Doug Muldoon, our own, board member. I was always such a big fan of him. John Blackledge, guys like that were just fabulous guys. And now there's a new breed of guys that I was working with today. And these were guys, which was cool, that I went to SWAT school with 20 years ago and grew up in it. And now they're all the chiefs and deputy chiefs. And they're still like what they're implementing and their ideas to implement in their program at the police department, from the new officer to the old officer, are amazing. I'm super impressed with Palm Bay. I mean, amazing. Their chief is fabulous. Their deputy chief, all the guys I met with, are really taking an initiative to implement a program in their department, and which is cool because other departments will follow. And that was some of the things they wanted, that they were talking about, that they wanted to instill into their department, was that their new officers got this training and took it with them. And Chris, I got to look at
Yeah, I
people
know.
so I
I'm
can hear,
trying.
because I can't hear him, so I got to see him. And you're just right in the way, babe.
It's beauty.
Chris, and you're so low, and it's kind of
I
freaking me
know.
out. You look kind of like a
I'm
hobbit, man.
I'm physically low, not low. Like
Like
I'm,
your chair,
yeah.
you kind of.
I don't know. If you don't know, we're in a new studio, so we're working out
trying
the
to work
kinks
out
right
the
here.
bugs.
And Jesse's got me sitting on the ground.
Jesse,
He
man, you just messed us all up, man.
Yeah,
You know
I'm
what
gonna have
I
to
mean?
stand up to fight out the last 30 minutes with everybody.
So,
there we go.
So anyway, I got to look at you, man. You know, it's important to me. So, because I talked about this today, looking, and smiling at each other, but I'm just, let me get back to, I'm super impressed in what they were doing. And what the chief said was he wanted that his new officers got this training in the beginning, but also got this training continuously throughout their career, so that it was a major factor.
Right.
And which is cool, unlike what you and I've dealt with, where every year we got to have tourniquet training and all the other bull crap stuff. You know what I mean?
To check the box training.
Yeah, to check the box stuff, and the stuff that we've mastered 15 years ago, we're still doing. So I'm super impressed with them, and if anybody needs anything, I would reach out to Palm Bay Police Department, and maybe they can point you in the direction they're going. But I see you, babe.
I have another question.
Okay, go ahead. She just cut me off.
Poor Thayer, he didn't even get to
I
get
know,
jump in.
Thayer jumped
This is beautiful. I love sitting back and watching
No,
this
this
show.
question has to do with really what you're talking about. So maybe 10 minutes ago, you were talking about what you dealt with today, and someone chimed in and said he went right to lunch. And we were kind of laughing about it before the show started, about how first responders, as a protective factor, as like body armor.
I got to throw you for a curveball right here, because you make me nervous when you ask me questions, right?
I haven't asked it yet.
I know, because it's coming. So this is the build-up, right? So
You're going to make me forget the
that's
question.
what I'm trying. All right, keep going.
He knows what he's doing.
Chris, you're doing it.
I looked
Okay.
back at him and
Okay.
gave him the look
Like,
like, good job.
So,
Derailer.
so you guys build up these protective factors, and you develop almost this cynical attitude towards things that would really affect us, right? But maybe when you first became a police officer, it wasn't like that. You didn't have those protective factors yet. You didn't put that armor on. But every traumatic event, you put another piece of armor on, and it is your protection. My question one is, do you feel like, if, let's say Palm Bay, if they continue this training year after year after year, do you think that will help, maybe not so much with decreasing that cynical attitude, if you will, kind of to get past what you just saw, but do you think it will help with being able to process the traumatic events? Because I think what happens is you're not really able to sit back and process things and actually really think about, wow, what just happened? Because for you guys, you go right to lunch. You push it off to the side.
Well, only detectives go right to lunch. Okay.
Or
Let's just get that straight.
like I know for me,
you got a valid point there.
even for me on things like, let's say it's on the news or social media, there are certain things that I'm like, I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it. It doesn't impact first responders in that way. You can almost look at anything and just move right on. But is that more of a protective factor?
So I heard many parts of your question, right? And
I didn't really ask the question because you threw me off.
I got what you were saying, and really, teaching and training this is not something that you can say, okay, here's a book, here's how we're going to do it, this is the outline, and we're going to follow this every single day. And here's why. You have your officer that starts tomorrow, and they're going to go through this new training, and they don't have anything in their book. Right. And then you have that officer that's at 27 years, and they're in the drop, they got 3 years left, and their book is full, it's overflowing, and they're actually ripping pages out. They're forgetting more than we're even putting in our book as early officers. So the way that we're going to deal with that 27-year officer is, yes, it's going to be similar, but it's absolutely not going to be the same.
I don't mean is it going to necessarily help the 27-year-old or the 27-year officer.
But I believe you have to be able to help that 27-year officer. And the approach has to be, yes, we have to approach it. We have to have the conversation. First and foremost, if you don't engage it and you turn around and you turn your back to it, that person needs as much help as the officer that's going to get in the car tomorrow with his FTO or her FTO, and the very first call out of the box is going to be a murder, and there's going to be a dead child, and this is not the job that I signed up for because it's supposed to be beautiful and I should be on live PD and everything else. Like, you have to address it, period. And we got to build them up.
With retired.
Absolutely.
Retired first responders.
So you got to go back, and then it has to be fluid, because every year we're going to learn more. We're just now having these conversations. We should have been having them 20 years ago, but no one would talk about it. Now we've kicked that to the curb, and now we're addressing it. But every year where you approach that first day officer today, you need to be having the conversation of a 3-year officer with them next year. And then that, and have that initial conversation with that new hire, and continue as you progress down the road. Where you at? I mean, I think there should almost be some kind of system that agencies create depending on the type of call. Did you see body fluid, and what kind of body fluid was that today? Did you see someone die? Did you kill somebody? Yes, you can't ask, did you kill somebody, because cops aren't going to shut you down, and you're not going to incarcerate me because of an answer I give you or whatever. But you need to have a checklist at the end of every day or every week of what you work. And even on vacation, you just came back from vacation. Did you see someone die? Because what I know, we call them shit magnets. People that are off work that are cops, they just fall right into crap because you're hyper aware. You know what's happening around you. You see it. So
not like me, I was a shit magnet.
Right, and you have to. So we have to continue to engage that, and it has to be fluid, and it has to. I mean, I don't say that we forget everything that we're learning right now and not ever readdress it. Just get better and better, but because that person, when we're 10 years down the road, that officer that's starting in 10 years has to have a foundation to work off of. And that's what I see a lot of times. I'm supposed to know my ABCs 1, 2, 3s, but somebody just came from a different country and they don't do it like we do it. That kid enters, middle school or high school, and they're expected to know everything we know, but they don't. So, I mean, we have to have that approach where it's, continual, and it's ever changing, and it's fluid, and
I was going to say that's that proactive piece that we've been talking about, and that's why I was asking the question. I mean, the answer really is for everybody, yes. If we are proactive and we're doing this year after year after year, and if you start seeing agencies that are implementing this not just once, but every year.
So to answer your question from the beginning, yes, if you start with these young officers right out the gate, of course, over their career, it's going to be embedded in their head, and I was thinking back when I started, And I was thinking about, the things and the conversations that I might. And so, I had this pretty much for most of my career, well, definitely with SWAT, I had the same boss. And he was a pretty hardcore dude, very well respected, but hardcore. Wasn't huggy touchy, wasn't the type of guy that was going to, put you in for awards. His thing was do your job, shut your mouth, make sure your clothes are, be professional. He demanded excellence, and I respected him for that. I also, for a while, I had was Ray Rocca.
No, he was
gone when you came.
Right.
So he was my sergeant for a while. And one thing that I liked about Ray was he would talk to you. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. He would come up on scene and pull you aside. He'd just have a conversation. And I always appreciated that about him.
Right.
Anna Cox was like that too, a lady that I worked with for many long time. And I always appreciated those conversations that you would have to make you understand something. Because, the rest of the time when you're in the job, you're just out on the streets running and gunning. And the conversations are, kind of laughing and rehashing. Right. As Debbie said in her comment, well, like when you go to lunch, it's to debrief and it's to decompress. So that's where those conversations, so there's that kind of conversation, but then there's also just a general conversation that you can have, to help out. And I think if we continue to open that, because as most people say, to break the stigma, that's one way to break the stigma, is to be able to have those conversations without being looked upon. We had a couple of comments that I wanted to touch on. Abe said that, the protective armor isn't really protecting you, but trapping it inside, right? So I get that. That's a big deal. And, Adam said, some of the protection could be cognitive responses to allow us to make sound and personal decisions during high-risk stuff. The rest of it's cut off. So, absolutely. I just want to make sure that I get everybody dialed in there. So, anyway, yes, those conversations are going to save people down the road. Obviously, most importantly, you can't forget that the new breed of cop coming out are I told the guys today in this class, I said, I'm going to have to insult you a little bit, but these new breed of cops, they're just different. Like, I'm not as some people call them, snowflakes or millennials. I don't believe in any of the names, but it's just different. They're a different breed of kid coming in their career. A lot of people say they're softer, and my personal opinion is, they're soft. They're just different, and there's a reason for it, because when I was a kid, I grew up out in the middle of the boondocks. We had dirt bikes. We had cows in our backyard. You were bull riding, shooting guns and bow and arrows. And these kids nowadays, like mine don't leave their bedroom unless it's time to eat because they're on a video game. Or we didn't have that stuff. We didn't have technology. We didn't have computers and all that kind of crap. So we were outside. We were rough and tough. We grew up in the streets. We grew up as athletes, that were playing ball. My kids asked us the other night, they go, Dad, how did you get so good at soccer? I said, because that's all I had and that's all I did. Mm-hmm. Same for Thayer. Thayer's a world-class skier. That's all he did in ski as he was a kid. So that's just the difference between then and now. Now you got to think this new breed of cop, they also have a million other things on their plate. Like the kids today, somebody asked me, why are younger kids committing suicide so rampantly? It's because, like, for example, we had this conversation with the kids. I didn't even have a TV until I was like 18. We didn't have any of that. So these kids nowadays have a million more things on their plate. With technology and social media and computers and video games. And I mean, I come from an era when a phone was a phone.
A real phone.
A phone was a phone.
Your mobile phone was on the street corner.
And listen, if you don't believe me, my brother's on here. We had one of them damn phones in our living room with the little scoop up thing, whatever, like Little House on the Prairie. And then we had the dial phone. So we didn't have any of that stuff. So we didn't have that much on our plate. And nowadays, these guys have a tremendous on their plate, a tremendous load on them. And so you kind of, as much as we pick on these new millennials, is that what they're called? Like whatever, the new kids, as I call them. kind of got to cut them a little bit of slack and say, hey, man, times are a lot
They're
different.
different completely.
They're just different. So the career is going to change tremendously. The amount of people, the different breed of cops that are coming out on the street, and firefighters, and let's just call it first responders. So obviously we're going to have to change the way we do business out there, and the way we do training. I also wanted to touch, Chris, you had mentioned about, before I draw a blank, the checklist.
Right.
So if when you come to the department, hey, did you see this? Did you see this? I always tell every department I go to, or if you ever want real good information, Jared Lowe, he is out of Phoenix, I think. Phoenix or Tucson. I'll have to figure it out and put it on. He's a sergeant over their mental health team at their police department. Is it Phoenix? Yep. Phoenix. He's meeting us in Miami this week.
Oh,
yeah,
cool.
He's coming. So anyway, Phoenix PD did something amazing. They made a criteria list like Chris was talking about, and basically said if you hit any of these key components, if you see a dead body or a child that's injured, or if like one of your coworkers gets seriously injured, just a whole criteria, have to work a rape case, something like that, you meet a criteria where you could just basically come into your boss and go, hey, I experienced this today. I need to basically take a time out. And without any questions or whatever, you get like X amount of days off, whatever it is. So that is implemented out there. Right. They're doing that, and they're like, I tell everybody, I've never seen anything like the stuff they do at that department. And when I read this list that they had to meet this criteria, I laughed at them. Because I was like, don't ever come to Cocoa PD, because that's the crap we deal with on a daily. Literally everything on that list, Chris and I deal with on a daily basis, or I don't anymore, but he does, as you just did, right? And so if you can take up to a certain amount of time off to recover from it. Now, some departments are going to be like, hell no, we can't man the staffing, the manpower, the overtime. But what they don't realize is they invest their money in the wrong department. So, like, I went from being officer of the year to retiring because I just couldn't take I couldn't do it, right?
Right.
So do you invest the money a little bit on the front end and keep your officers, and and to staff your roads and things like that. So that's going to be the task on the administrative top end, that they're going to have to revamp the way they do business and take better care of their employees. And it's simple business 101. If your employees are happy and they come to work, and I say this to chiefs all the time, this, if you take care of your employees and when they come to work, they're happy, they're going to work better. They're going to want to be at work. They're going to do a better job on the street. Your high liability are going to go down. Your lawsuits are going to go down. And when your guys are healthy in their head and they're physically out, they're going to come to work. So they're not going to be calling out of work on bullcrap work comp cases or sick time. And so your overtime and your staffing issues are going to go down. I mean, I would think that's business 101. I'm not a business guy, but that's pretty simple. And I know this. I see you, babe. Just give me one more minute. I know this because I lived it. When I remember when I came back to work, I was so happy to be back to work and reinvigorated, and my head was clear, that I actually got really proactive, and the rest of the guys I work with kind of followed me and joined in, and things were much better at work. And then I noticed other shifts, like there was one guy who was out on work comp for like 6 months with tennis elbow. I mean, really?
Yeah.
Come on. And so we all know what that is, right?
Right.
And so that's the type of stuff you can avoid. I just called somebody out, but hey, it is what it is. But anyway, so that's my tangent for tonight. I'm signing off, and my wife's over here drooling on herself.
No, I was just going to say, when you said it's business 101, it's actually leadership. That's really what it boils down to. That's just good, effective leadership, is not dictating what everybody does, but taking care of the people that you're supposed to be leading, so that they can come to work happy, healthy, and do a better job because they have an effective leader that's being proactive to take care of the people that are underneath them.
Well, and I think one of our missions is being not only being responsible for life and property, but being responsible to the taxpayers. And okay, we could go down an alleyway, and I can already hear some of the voices. Rah, 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 rah. But hear me out. Okay, so you're in that leadership role, and I can tell you that I already know people that were in the military, and there's attorneys out there, and this is about being responsible financially for your citizens, for your agency, for your retirement. If you want to make it to retirement, right? Because I know of attorneys that they ask you 3 questions, and if you actually can say yes to any one of those questions, and being especially a firefighter, EMT, paramedic, or a law enforcement officer for any amount of time, you can answer yes to those questions, right? So maybe at least 2 out of 3. And what they're going to do is they're going to file a claim, and they're going to go before the courts, and that agency is going to pay a lot of money in the back end. Yeah. So why not invest it in the front end and start handling it today to now and just be responsible? You know, we all want more money. Everybody wants more money, and cops and firefighters, we could all make more money, and that would be great. I don't think we signed up to do this, and I know I didn't sign up to do this for the money. However, I do want that money to be there when I retire, and I want to continue to draw that paycheck.
It is really nice, man.
It looks nice. You always smile
really
every time we
nice.
talk about this. But I want to
really
be there
nice.
also. And the people listening, the people doing the job, they want that money to be there too. Don't make them go get it from you because you didn't invest in them. Listen, if you're just doing the job and you're going to be a leader, take this to heart. If you're the leader in that agency right now, do something about it. Say, listen, I can save money. You can go to, for us, we have a city manager that makes the decisions. But whoever that person is, work with them, get beside them and say, look, here's how we can save money in the long term and not have to pay out these big lump sums, because believe it or not, the people that are working for you in these high liability jobs are going to have the opportunity at the end of the day to say, hey, I wasn't broken before I came here. You broke me. Now you're going to pay me. And that's just the truth part of it. And I hate to make this about money, because it's not. It's about getting the right help sooner than later. And why not start at the very beginning? And if starting at the beginning means that's where that 27-year officer gets the help, well, at least they got help, right?
And it starts at the top.
Right.
Chief Cantaloupe said that in a thing last week at a luncheon. It has to start at the top. And you were saying about being a leader. I'm so impressed with Palm Bay. I saw a leader in their chief today. What an amazing guy. Chief Moya is his name, and his deputy, leaders, these guys, I see the look that they had in their eye and the way they communicated with their people. I was super impressed. And one of the things I wanted to add before we start to wind down is we're only talking about half. We're talking about the work side of it. We're not talking about the trauma and the other half being at home.
Yeah.
Right? That's a whole nother area that we can't even touch. We can do it on the work side. So we're basically talking about half the load, because you can be traumatized. I was traumatized the other day at home. You don't even realize this.
I'm traumatized every day at home.
Well, that's because I warned you when you decided you wanted to marry me, but I didn't tell you. So Karen, the other day, I'm sitting there, it's Sunday afternoon, I'm relaxed, I'm watching TV, and so she wants to climb over on my side of on my chair and kind of play lovey-dovey snuggle, and she had the dirtiest feet. And she's laughing, right? Because I told her, I go, dang, Circle K feet, go wash your feet.
Hey,
she goes, they're not dirty. And the trauma, we're laughing, right? You're laughing with your dirty feet, right? But what traumatized me was I thought I was back at work dealing with the ladies that walk down Peachtree Street. I'm like, oh, great, I'm right back at work with the prostitutes and their dirty feet. Because I'm a legend. I arrested a girl one time for dirty feet. You think I'm joking?
Hey, if you can't take care of something that people see, you definitely can't take care of something that people don't see.
For the record, I went down and checked his feet, and they were dirty too.
No, they weren't. If that makes you feel better. But listen, so all our listeners out there, it's real important. Ladies, Wash your feet.
If you don't take
God
anything away from today,
Dirty feet. Listen, so the guys that used to work with me, Pat and
Yeah,
Will and Brandon,
Yeah.
I made them arrest this girl. We told her it was because she had these really dirty feet. We
Gnarly.
actually had some other stuff, obviously, but yeah, dirty feet.
the PC was dirty feet.
The PC was dirty feet. Like, you got, come on, ladies, clean your feet, man. All right, enough's enough with that. I'm traumatized from that the other day. You probably got
Trauma
dirty feet
everywhere.
right now, girl. You're lucky I love you, man. You dirty feet.
Oh
So. Karen, Debbie just yelled at me because she said you just compared Karen to a prostitute.
That's what I heard.
I didn't hear that. Nope, you can't back that up. Nope.
She's an in-house prostitute. That's okay.
Shots fired.
Shots fired. You know I'm going to pick on her because she hadn't been here in so long. So listen,
Oh, we
before we
miss her.
wrap up, when Chris closes us out, Thayer, I want you to tell everybody where they can find you. You know where they can go to look up and stuff and find your facility.
Perfect. Yeah, we're at www.chateaurecovery.com/first responders. And just quickly, I wanted to touch on this. You know, my experience, first responder non, has been, you know, we walk around and we absorb trauma each day. And it goes back, Doug's dead right. He said we're only dealing with half the pie here. We're dealing with the professional side, not the home side. And it's everything from, you know, going to the grocery store and seeing something that brings up old trauma from your childhood, from, you know, all of that. You know, something that our clinical director does is we do developmental stress assessments on people, and that can help us identify childhood trauma that we don't even necessarily know exist until it's brought to our attention. So, you know, I think that's something that for our first responders that just to be aware of. You know, you're walking around absorbing trauma every day, and I think Abe is dead right. He said it kind of traps it in there, and once you deal with that unresolved trauma, you can put the resiliency armor back on, and there's just less and less. But it's continued work. You got to keep doing it. It doesn't just go away and stay away.
Yeah, actually. And then Chris wanted me to tell you that he can't see you because the glare on your forehead is washing everybody out. That's your boy. Well, you could get him back when we go to Miami.
But I pulled it off for 59 minutes and 30 seconds.
he just got
well.
here. So, Chris, you want to close this out?
Yeah. Hey, it's been a long time. I feel like we haven't been together in so long, and I don't say that just only to the people in this room, but this conversation, it can't stop. Please reach out to someone. Tell them how much you care about them. At the beginning of the year, I quit shaking hands. I'm done shaking hands. I only give hugs. So whether you're a stranger off the street, if we're meeting for the first time, you might be gnarly, but I still love you. I'm going to hug you. It's so important to reach out to all the people around you. Doug says it. Just call one person for each day. That makes an impact. Talk to the people that live with you. Talk to the people that raised you. Talk to the people that you work with. You never know where they're at. And maybe you don't have the trauma, but maybe that person does. And maybe you just need to remind them that you're there. No one was born alone. Just remember that. Whatever your circumstances now, you weren't born alone. Be someone else's, shoulder to cry on or lean on or whatever. Look into your Rolodexes, whatever you call them, contact lists, someone on Facebook. Just reach out. Tell them that you care about them. Follow us on Facebook, on Survive First, on definitely our website. We have some big events coming up. Karen's going to touch on those real quick, but we really care about you. We do this because we care. It doesn't matter where we're at in the world. We're going to stop. We're going to continue to have this conversation, as uncomfortable or as funny or whatever it is, but we want you to know that we're here. We care, and you matter. So we always thank you for your time, and thanks for listening. I'm going to turn it over to Karen.
So first I want to say thank you very much to Laughter Saves Lives Foundation. They were here on Saturday evening. They did a live stand-up night, and
comedy show.
These guys were so funny. We were laughing so hard. I mean, I had tears.
Oh, yeah, it was freaking awesome.
So if you didn't get a chance to come out on Saturday night, they are planning on coming back and to benefit Survive First again. They had a great time, and they do want to come back. So keep your ears peeled for that. But for right now, we have our inaugural first responder ball that's coming up on June 13th, and tickets are on sale now, and people are going and getting those tickets on
And
Eventbrite.
they're flying
Yeah,
by. There's
yeah.
a lot of people.
You do not want to miss this night. For those of you who are local in Brevard County or even Central Florida area, Hot Pink is going to be performing live, and they have a huge
great
following.
band.
Yes, they have a huge following here in Brevard County. They are amazing. Sheriff John Mina is going to be our keynote speaker, and as we all know, he is just a huge supporter of mental health in the first responder community. And then also Chris Fields, he's retired firefighter from Oklahoma City, and he actually worked the Oklahoma City bombing. He is going to be speaking as well that night. And then producer Jesse, which you can't see, producer Jesse is going to be our MC for the night, and he's going to be playing some awesome music, DJing for us. So it is going to be such an incredible night. Get your tickets now, because I'm telling you, they're going to sell out.
And how much are the tickets if I were going to get a ticket?
Yeah,
I love your
I
question.
don't even know.
Tickets are $75. That includes your seat, your meal, which is a 3-course meal. It includes a commemorative glass.
It's
Just a
gonna be
whole,
worth
but it's going to be definitely worth it.
and a good time. Like, it's a party. This
yeah.
is not going to be like, it's not an event that just like for talking. It's going to be a night for us to go out and dress up and enjoy and be treated like all them Hollywood dorks, you know.
And then also we have tables. Those are $1,000 for a table. It gets you in preferred seating, right up close to the stage and the dance floor, with some other little incentives as well. We also still have sponsorship opportunities that are available, and we are looking for sponsors to step up. So give one of us a call. You can email either myself, Karen, Doug, or Chris, and it's just our first name at Survive.
Don't email.
Yeah, don't
me.
email Doug. Actually,
Don't
just
call me or don't.
Karen or
email
Chris
me.
at survivefirst.us.
Yes, at survivefirst.us, and we will get you whatever information that you need. So it's great to be back, guys. I missed you.
Welcome.
Yes.
Hey,
And
we'll
Bear,
see you
thank
in.
you so much for being here.
We'll
Doug
see you in
Levine,
2
I got
weeks.
your VIP tickets. Don't worry. You're always going to be VIP in my world. See you, Adam. Thanks, brother.
2 weeks, we're out.